Hello and welcome to the Seven Figure Builder Show. I'm host Julie Baranek, and I have an amazing guest today, Lawrence Files, who is an international financial investigator, due diligence expert, and instructor who's handled cases in over 130 countries and traveled to more than 100 countries himself. Mr. Files has tackled investigations ranging from a few $100,000 to over $20 billion dollars. And along the way, he's gained insight into what individuals must do for due diligence, preventing corruption, and preventing money laundering. He brings his practical in, I have to say that again, the magic of Hollywood. He brings his practical, investigative, and problem solving experience to business and investing choices. But we are going to talk about how to launder money today. And this is not what you expect it's going to be. So I'm excited to have Mr. Files on the show today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Julie.
You're very welcome. So, talk to me about how to launder money. This is not what I woke up this morning thinking we were going to talk about, but I want to know everything about your book and really what was the pivotal moment that brought you to this? Because I know this has been multiple years in the process of making.
It has. I authored two books, Due Diligence for the Financial Professional and then Due Diligence for the Financial Professional, second edition. And the feedback I got from that was amazing. It's like, oh my gosh, I can see why we having failures in the rest. But that was 2010. The second edition was 2010. And then I see in working both due diligence cases and fraud recovery cases, things that I can see from here to Siberia are money laundering, but the financial professionals and the entrepreneurs don't see that.
Mhm.
Um, and you think as an entrepreneur, oh, I don't have to be worried about money laundering. Well, you're wrong. The small startup, especially some type of debt-based startup, is a great way to launder money. And we just have to go back to the Wolf of Wall Street,
Mhm.
financed with dirty money from the 1MDB scandal. And you look at the 1MDB scandal, and as you dig deeper into that, you just want to hit your forehead on a wall because Goldman Sachs is a great firm, and they hired a fellow who said he had worked at two other large firms. Well, I know those people. I called them. They go, we don't know who he is. So an absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. So you got to keep going. You can't do the talk show thing and say, "Oh, wait, great, I found something." You got to get facts. And
Mhm.
when I pulled up a securities registration for the United States and Europe, he worked at a German high school and then he worked at Goldman Sachs. Um, Never worked at the other two institutions.
Mhm.
Further, he said he had a bachelor's, and these are rough numbers, but it gets the idea. He got a bachelor's in 94, a master's in 95, and a doctorate in 96. Whoa, wait a minute. That seems awful quick. Yeah. See? And, found out he did get the bachelor's in 94. He started his 18-month master's program in January of 95, rather, January of 94, right after he got his degree. So that makes sense. And the doctorate, well, was from a diploma mill. That's the $1,500 doctorate or diploma replacement.
Right.
So as you start digging in, you realize that not only was the money being laundered, but the people behind the process were bad.
Mhm.
Even one of the directors from China had been thrown off the Chinese bank board because of corruption and money laundering.
Mhm.
And your source of money really does matter. I've worked for many a small studio in Georgia and in California looking to raise money. It's like, guys, you can't take this money.
Mhm.
You just can't take this money because the sources are dodgy. It's a
Mhm.
nice way to put it, dodgy. So, how do I tell the world, don't take dirty money? That's a terrible title for a book.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of like, don't forget to count the money when you close the register. No one's going to read that.
Right.
So, in reading the book, I wanted to do something a little bit more than the due diligence book is one, write a book that sells a lot of copies. The second is to also carry that message. And the battle was how do you do that?
Mhm.
And really, it was a giggle moment sitting in a pub with a friend in the UK. And he said, "Oh, why don't you write a book on how to launder money?" Why didn't I think of that?
Right.
Yeah. So I started doing my research, and I've been at this for 7 years. Along the way, I met a fascinating fellow by the name of George Cottrell. George is a young man and is absolutely brilliant. He can walk into a room and read the room like a soothsayer reads
Mhm.
tea leaves. And without him, this book wouldn't have the generational approach to money laundering, nor would it have the publisher. He was able to add a lot to this book and secure a publisher.
Mhm.
And you say, oh, secure a publisher is not that big a problem. Yeah, it was. First four publishers I approached said, kind of like this panic look. Um,
I don't want to tell people how to launder money.
right. This is a great book.
Are we
Can't
going to
wait to
tell
read
him?
it, but we're not going to publish it. It's way too specific.
Mhm. Right.
And it is. And it is specific. I see fraud, people laugh. It's not something like you see every day. Then they look over at me in court. Oh yeah, Mr. Files, I guess you do see fraud every day.
Yeah.
I do. And I see the damage it causes to the victims. It's not a victimless crime. And I'm reminded of a fella. It was a divorce case. He and his wife split. He had to pay his wife child support and alimony for child support for 20 years, and he was still paying her alimony after 25. And he said, well, in the divorce decree, it said if there's any change, substantial change in the assets of either party, we need to revisit the payment plan.
Hmm.
He said, Burke, could you help me? I started digging and found out that his wife had inherited 3 sections of prime farmland plus 2 office buildings in a Midwestern town, tens of millions of dollars of assets, and had done so 9 years after they divorced. She didn't tell him. She didn't tell the courts.
Wow.
So I thought, man, I feel like, the fellow with the cape. I
Hmm.
went into court and we gave the testimony, and the judge was furious. The judge, she said to the ex-wife, "You've got 1 week to make this right. You don't
Wow.
have 2 weeks a month. There's no extensions. You got 1 week to make the calculations. Mr. Files, you make them today. You give them to me. You've got 1 week to pay your ex-husband."
Wow.
And I thought, wow, this is like a great thing. Excuse me. And I looked over and he's crying. I said, Andrew, what's wrong? It was a big win. He said, it's a big win, but you didn't see all those years of my life I lost cooking on a hot plate, living in a one-room studio to make sure I never missed a payment.
Right.
Wow, that energizes you. So combining the experiences I've seen in direct investigations as well as supporting investigative journalists looking into the Azerbaijani laundromat, um, the Russian laundromat, Danske Bank, Santander, and you can just go down the list, more recently, TD Bank. And you think, my gosh, why aren't they paying attention?
Hmm.
They must not know what money laundering is. And that's true. If you get into a major bank or financial institution, they have a checklist. They follow the checklist. When I go in to deal with a money laundering red-faced moment or a fraud within the first day, so far, 11 times without fail. But Mr. Files, we did the checklist.
Hmm.
Checklists work if it's a complex system to remind you, like a pre-flight checklist on a plane.
Right.
It's always the same, but it makes sure you don't forget things.
Right.
Business is complicated. You may have two people that sell car parts, but they're not the same business.
Right.
So you have to be able to think. And sitting in one bank trying to help them, lady came in and said, "Oh, Mr. Files, look, 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 this is money laundering." Okay, what's the crime? What's the transaction? What's the crime? Well, he
Mhm.
wrote a check for $65,000. Okay, let's look at his client profile.
Mhm.
He's 63 years old, living in the Boston area. I laughed. I said, "Where's the money laundering?" Well, he's never written a check for that amount. Okay, that's a red. That's obviously something that's outside the bell curve on either side. It's unusual.
Right.
Absolutely right to look at it, but it's not money laundering. Let's call him up. And I figured out who he wrote the check to, and I called him up and I said, "This is Mr. Files from blah blah bank compliance." He goes, "Oh, you're wondering about the check, right?" I said, "I got one question." He said, "What?" I said, "What color pickup?" He said, "White." I said, "A retirement pickup should be red." My wife said it should be white. Okay. So you've got
Right.
that beautiful part of human nature there.
Right.
That's not a problem.
So what are those
Uh,
things? What are those things that like you've seen the worst of the worst, right? You've seen behind the
mhm.
scenes. You've seen the things that we don't know about. And I love to geek out on I love Wolf of Wall Street. I love Greed. Like I love those shows and it pulls us in. But what are those things that we need to be aware of that people don't realize either they're crossing a line or could cross a line or, just to be really conscious of?
That's an excellent question. Um, two good examples. Um, Anti-corruption policies.
Mhm.
Most of them, 95%, are utter crap. And in fact, are counterproductive. They encourage corruption. Now, how can a policy encourage corruption? Well, Julie, we have some fun. Go for a walk, buy you dinner, give you a book. We laugh like heck. We go to a show. We're just having a great social moment. Completely innocent. Other than I say, "Julie, since you are with the bank, I have a loan coming up or I need to move some money. I need you to look the other way."
Mm.
And you go, "Oh, Mr. File, I can't do that." I said, "Yeah, I think you can because your anti-corruption policy says any gift over $100 you have to refuse, and whether that gift is in total or once, you have to disclose it. Have you disclosed the book? My book's $65. But, the dinner, I mean, it wasn't an expensive dinner, but that was $40 on your side on an $80 tab or over 100. The movie and the show and the rest of it adds up. Now, Julie, do you want to stay working at the bank or do you want to help me?"
Mm.
They've got you. Absolutely got you. That, excuse me, if anyone's out there with that policy, I want to let you know that stupid policy is what allows the bad guy to capture your employees.
Mm.
A better one would be, hey, kind of people are giving you gifts, just tell the manager what they are. That way you can never be tracked.
Right.
Um, Another way is you start asking questions like, "Oh, how did you make the money?" "Oh, I inherited it." "Oh, great. An aunt, uncle, grandfather." Immediately you get the song and dance about the origin of the money.
Mm.
Immediately. So, what does the entrepreneur also need to look out for? Let's take a step back and look at fund managers. Yeah, sometimes fund managers do launder money. They get into trouble and they figure they'll make a little vig of 7% moving stuff through.
Mm.
Other times they do it and they don't even know it. I mean, an example I saw was a fund manager that bought a business for 30 million, sold it for 35 and pocketed 5 million. He goes, "Oh, what a smart man am I."
Hmm.
But the problem is the guy who had the business was going to sell it to his friend. "I want to sell you a business, Julie. I owe you a payment. You've been very good with the politicians. Thank you." So you say, "Okay, you're going to sell a business for 35 million. No problem. And you send a letter through your attorney to all of the fund managers that might handle something like this and say, hey, listen, I have this business for sale.
Mhm.
This might be, you private equity guys love it. And then I send a letter around going, I'm looking for business like this. Do you know of any opportunities? Odds are one of those fund managers is going to go, got a business for 30 million, got a buyer's willing to buy it for 35 million. I can cross a transaction, make the 5 million, and it's all cool. Seen it
Yeah.
many times. Um, the other is with the entrepreneur, who are the partners?
Mm.
Um, and I'll give a good bad example. A gentleman is an active private equity investor.
Mhm.
Um, he has made his money in the United States. He came here penniless. He's a mad Greek, wonderful fellow. Um, but he pushes the boundaries.
Mhm.
Right? He invested in a liquor company, about 20%. Passive investor, was very happy, nothing's going on. But another investment he made apparently was made with a Ukrainian oligarch that got sanctioned.
Okay.
So that business was sanctioned. He inadvertently wasn't sanctioned, but started having his accounts closed. And this is the damage. The Greek accounts were being closed.
Mhm.
And then when they found out where he invested, those financial institutions that realized he was part of some of these different companies started closing their accounts. Right? Now, he did nothing wrong. Probably should have talked to me about the Ukrainian oligarch, but he did nothing wrong. Right? This is the dark side of the anti-money laundering crusade
Mhm.
that's damaging our businesses. It took 6 months and probably half of my time for that 6 months to unstick the problem.
Wow.
Um, Another example, an entrepreneur. She was raising $30 million to expand her business. It was a private placement. She had the investors lined up, audit, legal opinion, prospectus, went to the bank. She goes, Burke, we don't need to go to the bank. I've been with them for 25 years. Yeah, we need to go. So I went and I talked to the bank manager, bank president. Here's a prospectus. This is what we're going to do. Right? Just want to let you know in advance because your money laundering laws and your computer algorithms are going to have a heart attack.
Right.
Puts in 600,000, they freeze the account. Can't write checks or anything
Hmm.
because their computer algorithm, put up the red flag and now they just freeze it. It's just like that woman back in the bank with the pickup truck. It's a red
Right.
flag. It's got to be money laundering.
Right.
Um, that took about a month to undo. Couldn't sell our shares,
Wow.
couldn't continue. And the best and worst part about it, all of the investors went, yeah, it happens.
We've all seen
So
it.
bad. Yeah, it happens.
Wow.
And I'll tell you one on me. I was working with a company to help write the anti-money laundering laws for Pakistan
Hmm.
under a grant from the Asian Development Bank. Okay. Kind of sinister, don't you think?
A little bit.
First three payments went through the bank fine. The fourth one was frozen. The bank manager called me and she goes, I think you're money laundering it. You're getting money from the Philippines and it's going to Pakistan, Uzbekistan, UK, US, and Australia. Several of those countries are suspect jurisdictions.
Hmm.
So, yeah, but we're writing the anti-money laundering laws for Pakistan. You have a copy of the agreement. And we're being paid by the Asian Development Bank. And you hear that computer. Keys go. And she says, there is no commercial bank in the Philippines by the name of the Asian Development Bank. He said, it's part of the World Bank. They're in New York, where you're located. Tippy tap. There's no commercial bank here called the World Bank. He said, it's part of the UN. Sir, that's likely a story.
Wow.
3 months it took me to unfreeze the account. Not quite 3 months. I exaggerate. Maybe two. But
Wow.
by then, the suppliers that I had all complained with the ADB, and the company was frozen from any new work because I wasn't paying the subs.
Wow.
The IMF has complained about de-risking, where U.S. banks are de-risking correspondent banks in other countries. And it wasn't that long ago that several heads of the countries in Latin America and the Caribbean said, "Hey, we're a politically exposed person, but how come we can't get a bank account? We've been debanked
Right.
because we're an elected official of a small country." And you think that's pretty bad till Coots and Company debanked Nigel Farage. And he was a politically exposed person, but when they got down to the bottom of it, it's because we did not like his politics.
Wow.
Yeah. So for the entrepreneur, there's a couple of things that they must do, not should do. They
Mhm.
need to have two accounts at two different institutions at a minimum. Because if something happens, you don't want to have your bank shut down under a single point of risk.
Mhm.
You don't have your business shut down on a single point of risk being a
Right.
single bank.
Right.
Second, take your time. Take your time to understand who you're hiring. Who you're hiring really does matter.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to do with money laundering, but it has had to do with money laundering.
Mhm.
You have to do those background checks. And I'll tell you, the $100 cheap and cheerful background checks are neither. They're neither cheap nor cheerful.
Mhm.
Um, you must know where your money is coming from.
Mhm.
And anymore, like here we are today online, all businesses are international. We're connected to the internet.
Right.
I mean, it's a new, Ronald Reagan said we live in a time lit by lightning. It's ever more true now. You need to know who your buyer is,
Mhm.
if it's overseas or even domestic. I mean, that's how a lot of the chip smuggling is going on.
Mhm.
How these chips are going from the United States or US manufacturers to our enemy. They're being double shipped or reshipped. Mhm. It's kind of a sad thing to see in Tirana, Albania, a transshipment point where I think Tirana accounted for at one time 15 to 20% of all computer chip purchases for all of Europe,
Wow.
and they're being reshipped.
Oh my goodness.
So there are a lot of things to really pay attention to. Um, what does the future look like? Unfortunately, it looks like more regulation. And how does the regulation work? Well, the first laws came in 1971, the Bank Secrecy Act. And then
Mhm.
in 1990, the OECD, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, we know it as the G7, the G12,
Mhm.
the big economies, put together, I call it a stepchild, the Financial Action Task Force. And they were originally out there they say they want to stop money laundering, but it was about harmful tax competition.
Mhm.
When the Patriot Act got passed in the United States, I asked some of the senators, aides, I said, I've read it. It's not about money laundering. It's about buttoning up an economy to tax it.
Mhm.
And how dare they agree with me? I was ready for a
Right.
debate.
They're like, we know.
How dare they agree with me? And what happens is the OECD nations members, I think they're 38 now, when a finding is passed, they have to take that finding and put it into law in their countries.
Mhm.
It's a harmonization. And those members that aren't members of the OECD says, well, you got to pass these laws, otherwise we're not going to do business with you. No banking, no nothing. So that's the strong arm. And that's where you see the list of non-compliant countries and territories, blacklists, gray lists, etc.
Mhm.
And they're there to force compliance by smaller. non-OECD FATF members.
Hmm.
Um, and also the nature of crime is changing. Um, I remember a case only too well. It was posted online. It was, we have a client coming in depositing 800,000 to 1,200,000 every week in cash. Is that money laundering? And the posts hit me funny. It's like, oh, one of them was, well, honey, if it looks like money laundering, smells like money laundering, and quacks like money laundering, it's money laundering.
Hmm.
Yeah, I said, well, I responded, I said, I doubt it's money laundering because there's zero attempt to conceal it,
Mm.
right? Zero attempt to conceal it. So, I contacted the poster and I went to do some homework. It was over in California. And I talked to the gentleman who's making deposits. He says, I am so happy someone is talking to me because my other banks keep telling me I'm laundering money. I'm not. I'm a
Wow.
cigarette and tobacco wholesaler.
Mm.
When I collect a dollar, 60 cents of that dollar has to go to the state of California same day, next day.
Wow.
Checks take 3 days to clear. They can bounce. I got a 5% margin. I can't take credit cards. Those card charges can be disputed. I am stuck taking cash.
Mm.
And he goes, I'm driving around in a truck with $300,000 in cash. You think that makes me feel happy? He goes, no.
Right.
Yeah. And one of the cigarette merchants I went to visit, tobacco merchants, on the side, he had an advertisement for a bait and tackle. And I said, I'm in the right place. He said, "Do you, Mr. Files?" Yes, you're in the right place. I said, why do you have bait and tackle out there? He goes, no one ever robs a bait and tackle. Like, you know, that's pretty clever.
That's true.
So what the banker did, she was able to consolidate most of these merchants, do give them special servicing, cash and transit, etc. But it was a Herculean effort. Now, the bank made a lot of money off of it, and as I understand, is still making money off of it. But you just can't make a snap judgment. You can't say they're good. You can't say their
Right.
bank bad. You have to do your due diligence. You have to do your homework.
Definitely. Well, and it sounds like there's always more to the story, right? Good and bad, but it's important to better understand, what's actually happening behind the scenes.
But it is. I can't tell you how many private equity pools someone has gone out and raised money and makes investments, and it turns out to be a fraud,
Hmm.
either intentionally, that it was a fraud from the beginning, or unintentionally, it's just the person was very good at raising money and very bad at investing.
Hmm.
Kind of the old joke is the difference between a fool and a fraudster is the fool arrives at bankruptcy sooner than the fraudster because he's wholly unencumbered by planning.
Right.
Mhm.
Totally. So with your book, I mean, I don't need to know how to launder money, but I am certainly intrigued by all of this. Who would you say are the people that need to go out and definitely get your book? Like, who are you writing it for, and what are you trying to help them solve?
I have several audiences. One, the general public.
Mhm.
Is the reviewers have said this is a fun read. I had a gentleman who was with the IMF. He's reading through the book. He goes, I never thought of some of this. This is what I see every day. And other a friend who writes bestsellers. He says, "This is great. I'm going to incorporate this in one of my next books."
Nice. There you go.
So it's definitely a fun read,
Mhm.
and it's not written as an academic book, though it has those qualities. If you want to challenge any of my assumptions, it's well footnoted. It's there at
Good
the end.
luck.
Yeah, but you learn, what is the origin of a Smurf? I heard that. I laughed so hard. What's the origin of money laundering? There's many stories, but we answer that as well. How do you move? Everyone says, if you're going to launder money, we need to open a bar. No, no, that's a problem with that. We go through basic money laundering from how to move cash And it's sometimes it's not quite the public version. It could be a bit of an adult version, but how do they move the cash? Where do they deposit? How do they work it?
Mm,
And then you get into more sophisticated money laundering. How do you move 10, 15, 20, $100 million? So you're moving this amount of money. You don't want to be standing out there on the street corner with a sign, I launder money. How do you get the word out that clients need help or you're self-laundering it yourself? How do you stay anonymous? How do you put up a ring fence around your illegal operation not to get caught? How do you run your operation not to get caught? A really excellent chapter, 99% George Cottrell on using crypto.
mm,
And there's some really good points in there, how to use crypto, how not to use crypto. And really, the most important two chapters there in the book are the first. And what's the difference between currency and money? I have my drawer here, uh, all the currencies from the different countries I've gone to, and I didn't spend it all.
mm. You brought some home with you.
Uh-huh. And we recognize currency, but you've got a bill that says 1 0, that's a 10. What if you put a couple more zeros? It's 1,000.
Hmm.
Why do we take it for that?
Hmm.
And if I want to pass you, Julie, you a whole bunch of money, last thing you want is a briefcase full of cash.
Hmm.
Or even better, a duffel bag. Duffel bags are bigger, so the theory is they hold more money. You want something that you can integrate into your lifestyle and no one's going to look. So when you understand that there's things that appear as money and that there are things that appear of currency, the both things the one thing they have in common is there's an accepted value.
Hmm.
It could be bushels of corn. It could be scrap metal. It could be designs for purses. It could be computer program. But by me transferring that value to you, you don't see that in a bank account anywhere.
Hmm.
I mean, another one is, part of learning how to pass a bribe. Yeah. We have a chapter on that, and we talk about passing a bribe and how politicians get caught.
Hmm.
But the other chapter that's really important, other than that, is the damage that money laundering is causing, the laws are causing. The people at the OECD, FATF, okay, they want to capture revenue for taxes. I got it. They've accomplished that.
Hmm.
But each time something happens, they want to pass some more laws. They've got, I don't know, sixth or seventh round coming. And just this week, there was a gentleman who was on the inside of TD Bank. He was laundering money, probably caught through some type of um, tipping scandal, bribery scandal.
Hmm.
Um, see, I get off on a side note and I got to go back to where I was. But the damage that the anti-money laundering laws are causing are starting to affect everyday commerce, not just my contracts and other people's contracts. How long does it take you to open a bank account now?
Hmm.
It's still pretty quick compared to other countries. In Cayman, it'll take you a month.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you bring cash into a bank down there, they're not going to talk to you. They're going to you don't get a bottle of water, you got to leave.
Wow.
The next thing is, what is the cost of compliance?
Hmm.
Cost of compliance is significant, not minor. It's significant.
Hmm.
So what happens is they try to automate this huge cost that doesn't have a revenue on the other side, but they justify the cost to avoid getting fined.
Hmm.
Yet they still keep getting fined because my own opinion that complete compliance with the KYC, know your client or know your customer, and the anti-money laundering laws is procedurally impossible.
Mm.
It's a Sisyphean task. So a lot of bankers have recognized that, and they call the fine that they get a spank tax. And they've worked very hard to comply, and still they get a fine. So they
Wow.
just figure it's a spank tax,
Right.
and I get it. So you want to stop money laundering? Well, it's impossible, but you need to be better at your KYC on the inbound.
Mhm.
Take more time on opening the account. I know everyone will hate me for saying that, but really know who your client is.
Yeah.
Um, one fellow was a farmer, and farmers dole out little bits of money for 9 months, and then over 2 to 3 months, they have tons of money coming in. Well, the computer model looking for money laundering flagged the account.
Mm.
It, it was fixed in a day or so.
Right. But still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the models that flag for red flags, I got it. You got to keep them. But you got
Mhm.
to investigate the red flag, not run around like what is it? The woman on Harry Potter, Mrs. Umbridge, and all of her rules on the law on the
Right.
wall.
Yes.
Um, less of all of that, more into the suspicious activity reports,
Mhm.
and more dialogue with law enforcement and prosecutors.
Mhm.
Right now, it's a diode. The information goes one way, it doesn't come
Yeah.
back. And it doesn't give the opportunity for the financial professionals and the banks to learn.
Right.
That's an important part
Yeah.
of their training
Yeah.
is what is money laundering?
And using common sense with it.
What was that word? Huh?
I know it's a crazy concept.
I know.
Well, and I'm curious if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what is that biggest lesson that you want them to learn?
Good question. Do your homework before you take money.
Hmm.
Understand that every business can be used for money laundering. Know your partners.
Hmm.
Um, I want to say if it's too good to be true, at least check it out.
Right.
That crime and wanting to get ahead despite the laws, rules, and community justice is going to be with us forever.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm working on a book on corruption. I'm back 3,000 years BC,
Oh my
documenting
goodness.
corruption.
And we're
So
still
little's
here.
changed.
Yeah.
So little's changed. And that my Arabic is probably terrible, but haram. There's stolen money is haram. It's bad, but it's just not bad. It carries with it a taint,
Mm.
something unlucky.
Yeah.
And not being a suspicious person, but superstitious.
Hmm.
Definitely suspicious, not superstitious.
Right.
I've seen where large sums of money destroy a person's life.
Hmm.
So, How to Launder Money is a fun read. That's the idea behind it.
Hmm.
I mentioned him once before. I'll mention him again. Thank you, George. You're a great co-author and partner in the venture. I want people to read it, have fun. I'd like the regulators to read it, to understand. I'm not against them, I'm for them, but like a 7-year-old, you can't change the rules every time you lose a hand of cards.
Right.
And also there for the professionals.
Hmm.
When you see something that resembles the structure I show you in the book and it looks a little hinky, maybe you don't have to go any further. You can just gonna say, nah, I don't think so.
Exactly.
So, that's kind of my take. I hope folks enjoy it. So far, the reviewers and the people that have had the review copies have liked it.
Mm.
Of course, I know all of them. So that's
And you
always
didn't pay them for their for their review.
no, it's probably going to cost me a lot later.
Right.
Help my
No.
reviewers make it a bestseller. I'll buy them a dinner.
Exactly. As long as it's
But
not over $100.
yeah, A chip shop. I'm good with that.
There you go. But no,
But
we'll have the link for the book so people can come check
thanks.
it out and leave their reviews as well.
All right. Bless your heart. And thank you, Julie. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Lawrence. No, this was a lot of fun and definitely go check out the book and let us know what you think. And yeah, let's make the world a better place.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I will see you in the next episode.